because simply having a deceased person or a dead body doesn't give you all the answers. But I think what it does do is he's pinpointing, okay, the throat is a place we need to investigate. Okay, the manner in which his body was found, fully clothed, when we see videos of him without a shirt on, that is another point that we need to investigate to further our understanding of this. Because like any medical examiner, they're not just taking the individual's body, they're also taking the circumstances and the information they have surrounding the body to come up with a cause and manner of death. And Ben Crump, I think, is attempting to put pressure on the state and have other people kind of have this unsatisfactory feeling of we need to put pressure on the state so they can get those answers. I think that is part of the motivation here.
And yet, Diane and Brian, the independent autopsy revealed no fractures or deep tissue injuries. And so that does sort of suggest, even if it's not conclusive, that he wasn't beat up. He may not have been thrown overboard. I mean, there are things that this can rule out. There were no gunshot wounds. There were no stab wounds. There was no, it doesn't seem like a violent end, at least before he went into the water. So there's still a lot of questions and a lot of circumstances to understand, but the absence of fractures or deep tissue injuries does seem like a significant point.
But that's not including the throat, which is what Ben Crump is talking about. Yes, the occipital bone, which we can get Dr. Sutton here to do a better job of it, but we're talking about the back of the head here, which you typically talk about, like, did he fall on the boat and hit the back of his head and lose consciousness and that? Yes, absolutely rule that out. But I think what Ben Crump is attempting to do is, here's a piece that is important, the throat, that we don't know. And I don't know if that's going to win him the day, but at least he's trying to apply pressures, I think.
So welcome in, everyone. Great intro from Miss Rain. As always, you guys welcome into Same Source, Different Roots. This is our version of a little virtual town hall meeting. So we are going to allow individuals to come up tonight if you would like to, as we're talking about each subject. With that being said, we will have time limits so that, you know, we can kind of keep things going and let other people come up as well. But Rain, while we're waiting, what is your thoughts about this after hearing what they just spoke about, hearing that initially the findings that first came back from the sheriff when he said there was no evidence of foul play at the time. And then at that moment, Ben Crump and his team decided to do an independent autopsy where, you know, shout out to Colin Kaepernick and them who helped with the financial part of that. They got the body shipped to D.C. And at this time, you can almost say there still is not enough evidence to determine foul play at this time. So what is your thoughts about what's currently going on in the autopsy world?
Unfortunately, because of the days that had passed, the time that it took to get the body up to DC, I kind of had an inkling that it was a possibility that they were going to say it was undetermined. Finding out that some of his internal organs were not sent with him as well was shocking to me, not knowing how autopsies work 100%. But now learning that what goes on behind the scenes, as far as that goes, my issue is with that. With that being said, my issue is why not send? I mean, you've already done your biopsies or whatever it is that you need to do with those organs, and you sent the portions off for testing, even though those tests aren't back yet. Why not go ahead and send it with his body to DC? That was my initial question. We know that the longer it goes, the longer a body stays out of refrigeration, the longer the time when he did pass and the time that the DC did receive the body and the time that the doctor did make, the medical examiner did make the time to do the actual autopsy there in DC, I feel as though too much time had passed, you know. I don't know if the state is like being negligent or trying to hold up the results from DC by holding on to those critical organs that could be used for a conclusion. I don't know if that's their MO, but somewhere along, or if they could share the findings with DC, say, hey, this is what was found. Maybe you can conclude your autopsy now. My personal opinion though, I I hoped that the private medical examiner's autopsy was not put out before the state's, because I didn't want the state to recant their findings. I didn't want the state to go off of what DC found. What, I forget what the gentleman's name is, the doctor that did his, but I didn't want the state to be like, "Ooh, they found that. Okay, let's change ours." And I don't know if it's possible to even do that, because I know a lot of records now are electronic and you have to sign them electronically and whatnot. I mean, I know that initially they probably wrote down a lot, but with technology advancing, it's not as easily changed anymore. But that's my first thoughts initially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you guys know here, I'm more about fact-based information. Me and Rain have kind of been talking through this throughout the week, so this is not something like we just came up with today. And I want to provide more detailed information that wasn't even read by the Ben Crump team. And I think this is where we're starting to get a lot of divide and division, just due to the lack of facts and people not going to get these documents that are actually out there for you, right? So we're going to play a video in just a second to let you guys know that the organs did come with the body. It's actually on the paperwork, which I'm going to play a video of the young lady who's going to be breaking this down. It's the exact same paperwork that the Ben Crump and them read off of with the RAM Consulting. The body did come accompanying with the organs. The organs were removed in the initial autopsy, which is normal, but they were placed into a bag and put back into the body cavity. And it's on the paperwork. So they did have the organs there. We also know by facts base that Dr. Roger Mitchell, who did the examination in DC, he mentioned that like the throat not being there, things of that nature, is very common in autopsies, right? He actually stated that. You can go read it in the New York Post as well. So those are some of the like big factors, right? I know previously on another platform, I spoke about the things that people need to understand about the systems as well. With Dr. Mitchell Rogers being a forensics pathologist, he could have actually flew to Mississippi and did an independent autopsy right there in Mississippi. So forensic pathologists actually have the right to actually were actually able to go and do those things. So shout out to Classic in the chat. So the biggest thing is making sure that we're getting all the facts just for everybody who would like them. Make sure y'all catch Classic show as well. He's been covering it very in detail, as you see in the chat there. As he mentioned, he said organs came, but they were unable to be used, determined drowning. So what we're initially covering right now, Classic, is some people thought that the organs weren't even there. And a lot of those things weren't actually given. So we're just giving the detailed facts of it. So we're going to actually play this video here that's going to speak a little bit more about it as well, because she actually broke this down as well, because it's on the documentation that talks about the incision that happened and everything that went along with the body as well.
But we all have access to the report, so let's talk about what it actually says versus what you might be seeing in some of these headlines. But before I get into the details of the report, I first want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, so anytime someone dies, well, most times, not every time, but anytime a death requires an autopsy, the medical examiner or forensic pathologist for that state performs the official autopsy. They get the body first. And then on top of that, families have the option of hiring their own independent forensic pathologist to do a second autopsy. So that's what happened here. The Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office received Nolan's body first, so they performed the official autopsy. And then Nolan's family, with the help of Colin Kaepernick, requested a second independent autopsy. And that's the report that was released today. And the first thing worth noting from this report has to do with Nolan's organs. So here on the report, under the preliminary findings, the report says a Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso. And a Y-shaped incision looks something like this. Underneath that, it says organs removed. And then underneath that, it says accompanying the body in the body cavity. So in layman's terms, that means that the pathologist from the first autopsy, the one from the Mississippi Medical Examiner's Office, removed Nolan's organs, which is normal to do during an autopsy. And when that pathologist was done with the first autopsy, he put Nolan's organs back in the body cavity, aka back into his body. What they commonly do is put the organs in a bag and then put the bag of organs back into the body. But this report doesn't say if that's what happened or not. So just know his organs in some form or fashion were put back into his body. And when the second pathologist received his body, his organs were there. However, it is important to say that because the organs had been removed during the first autopsy, it did affect the ability of the second pathologist to do a full examination. For example, the report explains that the second pathologist wasn't able to see Nolan's organs in the original state they were in when his body was found. And again, that's because the first pathologist removed them and then put them back. So the second pathologist couldn't observe Nolan's airways and lungs to determine if water was present in them. And he also wasn't able to examine Nolan's stomach to see if there was something there that could have contributed to his death. So he's not saying that this is suspicious or that the first pathologist did something wrong. He is simply saying he couldn't do his full examination really because he was second in line. Okay, now let's move on to the second.
So we're going to stop there. So shout out to her as well. She finally got her YouTube page up. She's normally, you see her on TikTok, but now she's fully up on YouTube. So shout out to her.
I'm not really a lawyer.
Yeah. That was her. So the biggest thing for us today for the town hall virtual thing that we're doing tonight is more just to also educate people as well. I think everybody is following the case as closely as they would like as well. But I also feel like there's a lot of information that's being put out there. And I think sometimes we have to wonder too, why aren't these things presented to us from the beginning? And what I mean by that is, when a body is transferred from state to state, it still comes with a chain of custody as well. Every pathologist or whoever the specialist is, they know what's coming. Like you know what you're receiving. You know what I mean? So that's my biggest thing. Is like, I'm sure that this pathologist, Dr. Mitchell, knew that due to the first examination, having the organs removed, that he wasn't going to be able to give you that information. You see what I mean? Like this isn't people's first rodeo. And that's why I'm always telling people that I think we need to make sure that everybody still is getting all the full information, not just trying to like get people up in an uproar. I do agree that Mississippi needs to be more transparent with the examination. And that's why when I did my research, I was very curious why he didn't want to go to Mississippi. And it could be a lot of reasons, right? But again, forensic pathologists are able to travel when they're forensics pathologists. So to go there and just kind of get the answers you need right up front, just so that people can have a better understanding of what's going on, and that you can have that conversation from pathologist to pathologist. But again, shout out to the Kaepernick and them from actually, using the money and getting the body there to get the examination done. After further watching a lot of the stuff, I'm starting to realize I think that's why they chose Ben Crump, just due to the ability that Ben Crump has to like move certain needles, right? To get things done that maybe another person wouldn't be able to get done and things of that nature. So shout out to the team. I mean, they're doing the best they can, but I also want to make sure that when we're giving information on the platforms as well, that we're fully transparent, right? Like we need to make sure that if somebody's listening to this for the first time, that they understand what all this looks like. They understand what all the information actually is, and not just trying to cause an uproar, because it's already out there. Like the uproar is there. You know what I mean? So tonight we're trying to cover like, okay, what are some things that we all need to know? What are some things that in the future, when when the next incident happened, that we can be fully aware of what needs to happen. How should we fight these fights as well moving forward? So those are the biggest things. Did you have anything else before we play the video from Nancy Grace?
No, only in doing all this, we just offer prayers to the Wells and Wansley family. You know, hopefully they'll get some closure soon. That's it.
I agree. I definitely agree. So we're going to be moving on to showing the next video is going to be Nancy Grace. She actually brought the pathologist from the great state of Texas here in the DFW. He's known for a lot of cases, and he's going to talk more about the red blemishes that people heard about, or some people may have seen on the during the autopsy review from the Ben Crump team and things of that nature. So he's going to talk a little bit more about where that could possibly come from. Again, no one's ruling out foul play. I think from like the outside standpoint, just because we're not getting that information that they're saying that it's not any, we don't know that. We still don't know. So I'm not here to play judge or jury, but I do think it's very, very important that everybody understands the full scope of everything that's actually going on around them as well. So here's Miss Nancy Grace, who pretty much came back out of nowhere, man. She's taking the internet by storm as well. I mean, she's getting like over 1 million views per video. She's doing her thing. So Nancy Grace brings the expert in from the actual DFW area, who's done a lot of pathology. I mean, autopsies and things of that nature. So here we go.
Deep red. I'm talking about, was there a blow to the back of the head? Did he fall off a boat? Did he hit his head on something else? If it turns out he drowned, how did he get in the water? Why was he in the water? Why did everybody leave him? Lots of questions tonight. But if he was found face down, the blood would not have settled to the back of his occipital.
Well, that's correct at the initial autopsy, but he was also transported to Washington, D.C. on his back, I assume, not on his face. And so after death, you can still have pooling of the blood in the dependent areas if the lividity is not fixed, or even if it is fixed, you can have pooling. So it is difficult to say without seeing the actual reddened area in the deep soft tissue, whether this is just a decompositional artifact or if it's indeed blunt force trauma. Now, they're not describing any injuries to the skin surface, which would still be there if he was, even if he's decomposed, you would still see injuries, abrasions, bruises, lacerations, things of that nature, even with decomposition. So it's difficult to give significance to this deep red area in the musculature of the deep soft tissues of the back of the head without further photographs or more information. To me, could it be blunt force trauma? Yes. Could it be a decompositional artifact? Yes. Could it be something from transport? Yes. Hard to say at this point.
Okay, hold on. Let me just take each one of those. And the rest of the panel, please, if you've got a question or a point, jump in. We need all of your brain power. Oh, that's an open invitation to Mobley to jump in. But 3 things you said, that there could still be pooling of the blood. And I don't want to be too DEFCON 4 into this and get lost in the weeds, but Nolan is dead. He's already been autopsied. Days have passed, and you're telling me that the blood could still sift down from the front of his face to the back of his neck in one specific area. Why wasn't the pooling all the way down his neck? Or why just that one area? I don't believe that when you have been deceased that long, you've already undergone autopsy, they've drained the blood from your body, that somehow in the few hours of transport, you're going to get.
And just to be transparent with people, Nancy Grace does a lot of acting. She will ask a lot of questions that she does know the answer to, but she's asking things that probably the public would like to know. So she's very dramatic in that manner. but she's trying to get answers for those who will want to have answers for these questions that they probably not feel comfortable asking. So.
Pooling of the blood to one area in the back of your neck.
So first off, it's not a few hours of transport. It's from whenever the autopsy ended. He's placed on his back. Whenever he's picked up at the scene, he's been placed on his back. So all that comes into play. They don't drain all the blood from the body at autopsy. There's still blood in the body after autopsy. And also, decomposition causes the breakdown of tissues, including musculature, which can give a reddish decoloration from the actual decomposition process of the muscle. So all these have to be considered when you're saying a reddened area, because the doctor didn't call it hemorrhage, which is interesting to me. He called it a reddened area. So I don't know what he's describing.
And that stood out to me too. So shout out to Dr. Roger Mitchell. He didn't try to like exaggerate anything. He didn't try to like assume anything. I think that doctor almost didn't even know. He gave him a little shout out because, like you said, he was surprised that he didn't use certain terminology. But I think that shows his history of working in DC in the metropolitan area, of understanding, hey, we need to give people the best information possible and not try to get people too in a uproar and things of that. So shout out to Dr.
I would love to see pictures, but again, there's no description of a bruise or an abrasion or a laceration on the skin surface of the back of the head. So what the significance of this is? Could it be a decompositional change? Could it be something else like blunt force injury? It's hard to say at this point in time.
I find it very difficult to believe, Dr. Kendall Crowns, that not one, but two medical examiners cannot figure out why he had deep red subcutaneous markings. Subcutaneous, what is that? Deep subcutaneous, what is that?
It's underneath the skin, meaning in the fat or the muscle underneath the skin.
Okay. Straight out to John Mobley joining me out of Charleston. He's a renowned trial attorney, founded John Mobley Law Firm. Okay, Mobley, have at it.
Well, Nancy, I got to call it like I see it. There are a lot of things that I don't like about this presentation. I think the first problem I see is they put out this autopsy and they kind of gave you a lot of sizzle. They gave a big dog and pony show, but they didn't really make it clear on the findings and conclusions and how they could be interpreted. And I think that's kind of the problem with this case. They put all this stuff out.
So we're going to stop there first. So this is one of the things that we just recently talked about with myself and Rain when we first started the show. This town hall is mostly just to educate and give people information on how things look and how other specialists, doctors, attorneys are looking at things. I think sometimes I feel that, again, I'm going to say it very black and white. I feel Mississippi knows what they're doing. They should have been more transparent. I'm not here to fight that back. I feel like Mississippi should have been very more transparent. But I also feel that people are able to play these games with us due to these reasons, right? Due to us not knowing technically what's going on, how things are moving. We're trying to take in the information in certain manners and things of that nature. And that's what we're really here for, is to like break down everything that has been going on from the start, but just trying to find a way to educate the masses as well about what's going on, how it looks to other specialists, other people who have done this, attorneys, pathologists, all that. I think they understand a little bit more. And even to hear this gentleman's frustration at like, this is what everybody's doing, right? Not just Mississippi. Some people are now feeling like Ben Crump and them are doing the same thing, right? You're getting us excited, but then we get let back down because we don't feel like we're moving anywhere. We don't feel like the needle is moving. You have anything on that, Rain, before we start back with the attorney?
I understand the initial reason for the press conference with Ben Crump and the family and whatnot. Should they have laid it out a little bit better than what they did? Absolutely. Ben Crump needed some help interpreting that autopsy. No shade given, no shade, or I'm just personal opinion. He needed some help on interpreting and interpreting it for the audience, the family, and everybody there, so they could understand it correctly. You know, we heard the shouts and the other things that were going on in the background. Why? Because it was shocking. It was very shocking the way he was reading it, and I understand he wanted. Ben Crump wanted to be transparent. He wanted to be so transparent. He wanted to put it out there as is. But I think it would have done better received if he would have laid it out a little bit better for the common folk that don't understand medical terminology and whatnot. Read what's on the autopsy in that form, and then tell, for the common folk, layman's terms, what's really going on. People who don't understand that medical language all the time. So I do agree with this gentleman here. I'm not gonna call it a dog and pony show, but
Yeah.
but the public has been pressing for this. I feel as though, and with all this technology and information that we have at our fingertips these days, it kind of hinders investigations like this, because everybody's putting their 2 cents in. Everybody's coming up with their own narrative of what happened. Everybody's trying to be that investigator and not letting the authorities do what they need to do. And I'm not saying that I feel as though Mississippi is doing what they need to do. I don't. I think they're being nonchalant about it. I've said that from the beginning. Yes, I think a private investigator should have came in and done some things for the family on their behalf. But as far as, and like I said, I do believe Mississippi has been nonchalant about the whole investigation. I've said that from the beginning. As a mother, I've said that from the beginning too. So, but yeah, it's tough.
There, all these legal terms, all this, forensic jargon, and now everybody's whipped up in a frenzy trying to understand what it means, exactly, speculating, guessing, and the reality of it is, unless you're an expert, a forensic expert, none of us are qualified to interpret those findings. Now, I've been involved in countless homicide cases where I've had to look at forensic autopsies and discuss the findings with experts, and that's what you have to do. And ultimately what it comes down to is they put this thing out there, this preliminary autopsy finding, and they did not present any real conclusions. And that is a problem. And to address your specific concern, Nancy, about
put up Mobley. Listen, I'm not vouching for the character of Crump or Sharpton. That said, of course, are you saying they were wrong not to put it out there? I think they were right to put it out there, whether it's inconclusive or not.
The manner in which they presented it.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
He just sat there and read it. And number one, I don't think he was the best person to read it. He's just kind of reading off medical terms that he didn't do the best job of pronouncing. And they didn't really present a conclusive finding. And what that does is...
Well, there is no conclusive finding, Mobley.
Well, he could have said that, because what he does, though, in the manner which it's presented, when you take a case like this, you take little bits and pieces and put them out there in that manner, what you're doing is you're feeding these conspiracy theories like, oh my God, there's some big mystery, some conspiracy about what happened. Regarding saying, hey, here's the deal. In situations like this, based on the rate of decomposition, things like that.
Don't you get it, man? We still don't have the answer. I don't have the answer. He's got a red mark deep in subcutaneous tissue on the back of his head. Wait,
here's the
go back to Kendall Krause real quick.
And again, guys, since we're talking about transparency, do not get confused with what Nancy Grace is doing. Again, I want to put that out there. Nancy Grace she's a great actor. She understands what she's doing. She's being an antagonist to get a conversation going, because she knows this gentleman. They know how to have this conversation. So just be aware of that. We're going to be transparent with you too. Trust me, if you watch all her content, you'll see. So this is what she does. So don't get confused. Don't think she's asking these questions because she doesn't know. Again, she's acting.
Wait. Kendall, where's Kendall? Why am I not seeing Kendall? Kendall, please turn around and show everybody what we're talking about, because I'm doing this. Show me occipital.
Occipital's right here. Back ahead.
How
Right where your
in
neck
the
can tip.
world, out of his whole body, is that where the blood pools? I'm not buying it. And I'm not saying this is a homicide. I am saying there are a lot of disturbing circumstances surrounding this young man, the star athlete's death, and I am not letting it go.
So I'm gonna stop it there because I think that's where 90% of people are.
Yeah.
It's where Nancy Grace just ended right there, right? A lot of people are like, hey, we just lost a young man named Nolan Wells. Nobody acts like they know what's going on. We need some answers now. Mississippi's not giving us answers. Ben Crump, I know why you're coming out, but we're still not getting the answers at the end of the day. And so for everybody who's in that middle ground of like, okay, we now need answers, right? We're going to talk a lot more tonight about some of the friends who came out and talked. We're going to actually have some people who we're going to review some videos of the people who actually was there, part of the rescue mission, things of that nature. With that being said, anyone is able to come up. We have the link in the chat. You are free to come up if you want to come give your opinion about the case, or if you might have something to say. Myself and Rain are not here to debate with you. We're here for you to be able to spread your opinion out there, good, bad, or indifferent, and be able to speak and get your point across. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that we all are able to get our voices out there, but at the same time, we need to now, I think we all need to demand more transparency from everyone. I think every room that we walk in, every article that's put out, every interview that's done that we're going to talk about, even with Officer Tatum, everybody needs to say the right things or don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's not helping anything. It's just causing a bigger wedge, and everyone's getting confused. So shout out to everybody again. Super chats will be read. Appreciate y'all in the comments. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe to the channel as well while you're here. Again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. I know it's going into a new day, so I appreciate everybody who's here currently watching. Do you have anything else for the Nancy Grace portion there, Rain?
No. I didn't want to come on here with not with no words, but I mean with the doctor on here explaining that the blood can pool in certain places after the fact, even during transportation. I mean, we have to look at it. There are days passed, before. I don't even know when did they say when the actual the DC exam?
Yeah, it was on the paper. Yeah, it was July the 10th.
July the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it was 4 days out the original one, right? I think the original one was either done on the 6th or 7th, if I'm not mistaken.
So still, that's a lot of time in between that. And with me being, I'm not a medical person, okay, but me just thinking logically, when a heart stops, the blood's no longer circulating within your body, so the blood will pool. And I'm not saying that there was no injury to the back of the head. I'm not saying there was no injury around his neck or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that me knowing that when the heart stops, the circulation stops, so the blood is going to pool wherever it is at that time. And maybe because it's different back there, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion on that part.
And I think most important, and like I said, thank you, Mike, for the respect too. Definitely all prayers to the Nolan Wells family, because I think that's the biggest thing now. And that's why me and Rain decided to talk about this tonight. We didn't want to jump on it early. Wanted to actually talk about it once more and more information came out, just so that we're not assuming things or getting people up in an uproar. We just wanted to be able to discuss the facts that we currently have and be able to educate those from any new information. Appreciate you, Mike. Mike said new to the show, new subscriber. Appreciate you, big
Appreciate you,
dog.
Brian.
Appreciate you. So again, y'all, the chats are not the chat, but the link is in the description if anybody wants to come up and speak as well. While they're trickling in, we can read some of these. Patsy said, I watched the show when Crump read the results. He definitely shouldn't have read it unless he had someone to explain what the results would mean.
Yeah.
Very true. Very, very true. And I think that's what makes these type of cases very difficult, right? I know sometimes I get criticized from being a person who is based more on the facts. Like I'm more of a black and white person, so people judge that. But that's why I'm the way I am. I like to really get the information, understand what I'm reading. Kind of like Nancy Grace talked about, right? The things I didn't know, I went and researched myself. You know, the questions I had for myself, I went and researched. Like, okay, could he said, I think so too, Classic. I'm not gonna lie to you. Rain sent me over that audio. I had to listen to it about 20 times. But I definitely agree with you there. And I said this at the very beginning before we even talked about this. I said there is a good possibility that there could be some possible foul play. I just don't always think that our alleged offender of choice is probably who we think it is. I think it's going to be very unique once it comes out, but most definitely, I definitely agree with that.
Before we move on, I'll tell you what I noticed too. There's a picture of Warren with a young lady. Do we know if that's Katie or not?